It is Monday, September 12th, and the Give and Go show is back in your life. We're talking about the Eastern Conference today. We're doing the same thing we did on our previous two episodes, where we're going to go through the regular season win-loss records and what our personal expectations are for the regular season win-loss records. All the information that we're going to be talking about today, we're getting from FanDuel. So if you're seeing different win-loss records elsewhere, that's likely why you might be looking at a different sports book. Also entirely possible, as it is September 12th and the season is still over a month away, that these regular season win-loss totals are going to be updated in the time prior to the season. There's still trades that could happen. There's still some free agency pickups that could occur. Injuries could occur, during the offseason or during the preseason, things that will affect these totals. So these numbers are not final, but we're going to do the best we can based off what we have right now. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, please make sure you click that like button, click the subscribe button if you have not subscribed already. And if there are any regular season win-loss totals that you completely disagree with or completely agree with, or you think we say something that is so remarkably egregious that you need to tell people about it, click the comment button and let us know. And maybe we'll talk about your opinion on the next episode. If you are a fan of the Give and Go show, first off, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you watching. Second off, share this with your friends. Share this with other people you know that are into basketball content, that are into Zoom
content.
podcast between three white men, anime content, the occasional ranking of porn stars. Just like, whatever you're into, we're probably going to talk about it at some point.
Yeah.
Obviously, more basketball than anything else.
If you're into white guys with stubble, then this is the podcast for you.
This is the podcast for you, exactly. As always,
this is more than stubble.
yeah, that's true. You got a good beard going. I'm just looking kind of like shit. It is what it is. I say that, but inside I'm like, goddamn, Griffin, you're so handsome. Ferentinos, you're looking pretty good. You're coming off a wedding. I know that. Not your own. To anybody watching,
no.
Ferentinos is technically still unmarried. So if you're creepy and a fan, get at him. As always, joined by Matt Ferentinos and Matt Modi, the guys that make the show run. Appreciate you guys being here. Before we get into Eastern Conference regular season wins, the main thing that we're here to talk about, Modi, I know we need an anime update from you on anything that you've consumed in the past week. Ferentinos, I'd like to see some updates from you basically on how your life's going, because I don't see you often enough. Modi, let's start with you.
Sure. Before I get into the anime talk, sorry if you guys heard my dog barking in the background, but that reminds me, you guys are both dog owners. I know Griffin is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So, okay. So when you're walking your dog shits. You pick it up. Obviously, we are pro picking up your dog poop.
Sure, absolutely.
Of course. Always have a bag tied on the leash.
Exactly. Gotta have
always have them in the little bag holder and have at least one tied on the leash. Always have a backup.
Two poop walk too.
You could.
Exactly. But my question is, that I don't think is an opinion. That is, you pick up after your dog. My question is, if you're walking,
come out to Hermosa Beach. I'll tell you that is an opinion. There are people here that are just blatantly disrespectful to their neighbors. But
Charleston, you get fined.
Hermosa Beach is a non-dog friendly town, despite everybody owning dogs, because of 0.05% of dog owners just being Nazis, like just the worst people.
Yeah, I meant more so like those people are wrong. That is they're incorrect. But I think what is a fair opinion. So if you're picking up after your dog, if a neighbor or someone has their trash can out, do you throw it in? Is that fair game to throw it in the trash can that is out, or is it only your own trash can or like a public one?
If I know it's getting picked up that day and it hasn't even gotten picked up yet, I'll just chuck it in a trash can. There's actually a decent amount of public trash cans, which helps, but I personally think it's fair game. It's a trash can,
I'm on your side. It's trash. What, because I was listening to a podcast where someone was complaining about people throwing dog shit into their trash can. And I'm like, what do you eat soup out of your trash can?
Hopefully not.
Why do you care what your trash smells like?
Yeah, it's trash.
Like shit.
It is funny that you bring this up, because one of the local Facebook groups that I'm in for the neighborhoods around here, kind of like next door, but on Facebook. So you actually know what people look like and you might see them on the street and want to fight them. Somebody asked this question recently, or they didn't ask this question. They said, I saw somebody throwing away trash in my trash can the other day. Please don't do that. And all these people were like, some people were very much in agreement. They were like, yeah, that's my trash can. First off, no, the fuck it isn't. It's public. It's a public trash can given to you by either the county or the government, or the local ordinance. And second off, why? Who cares? Who gives a shit? But some people obviously on our side, we're like, yeah, I mean, like it's a trash can. I'm not eating out of this. I'm not living in this, use it as a trash receptacle. And I think I'm on the same side as Ferentino's largely. Like I will do it if it is the day the trash is going to get picked up and I can tell that there's still trash in there. Like I'll check it to see if there's still trash in there. Or if they have one of the big like dumpsters, like if they're that kind of trash bin, I'll toss it in there. If it's one of the smaller ones or whatever, I'm kind of, maybe at night, if I have like 2 or 3 bags of poop in my hands, walking around 2 dogs, I might do it. But I really don't mind that much waiting till I get home, unless it's like, a big poop day, in which case I don't want to carry around 2.5 pounds of dog poop.
Bunch of dog shit.
Yeah. Okay. I
think every bag we get, I'm sure you guys probably get similar bags. Like I get like the scented ones from Amazon or whatever.
Yeah.
And you get them in rolls of like 10,000. They're all durable. Like there's no holes in them. I'm not like sprinkling shit on the inside of your trash can.
Yeah. I think we're on the same page here. Like I don't care if someone throws it in mine. I won't throw it in an empty one. But if it's trash day and the trash can is full, then I will. But
sure.
Anyway, so I had to get into some dog poop talk, but
it's why I jump on the pod, guys. To talk about our dogs and their poop.
I will say this is the equivalent of my flu game because for whatever reason, my fire alarm went off at 4:15 in the morning and then consistently for the next 2 hours, even though there was no fire in said house. So we have our security system looking into why it went off. But if I start spouting off random nonsense more so than normal, just ignore me, just not smile and nod.
So the other
that's kind of how we treat your opinions anyways.
No, that's fair.
Like my last week in DC, the smoke alarm needed to get changed and the batteries went off, and it went off at like 2:30 in the morning. And I was like, you don't hear the first one, it's always like the second one, it's just glaring. And so I changed the one battery, put it back on. You have that moment where you're like, all right, let's see if it's not going to go off. And then it goes off and you're like, damn it. Thank God I lived across the street from a 7-Eleven. So I went and got batteries, changed them. The next day, I just was watching Nathan For You on TV while I was working. And the episode came on where he tried to get a smoke alarm classified as a musical instrument. So just I heard the smoke alarm again and I was like, what the hell is going on? I thought I just changed the batteries. And I was like, oh, it's the TV. It's like you just start hearing it everywhere when you get woken up with smoke alarms. It's
that's
awful.
Funny. Yeah.
I'm currently engaged. My entire apartment complex, 2 buildings, 4 units or 4 units? 4 units on each side. So 8 units in total. Basically, all of us are currently engaged in a fight with our landlord about how much she sucks shit and just, all the issues that she causes for us by not updating the apartment. Having bad piping, having termite issues, ant issues, whatever you can think of, there's probably some sort of issue with that at this apartment building. When we moved in, we put together an itemized list of all the issues that we saw. Like we did the walkthrough with her and it was very quick because she was clearly on her way out. And then we put together an itemized list and we sent it to her. One of the list items that we put that took multiple weeks for her to correct was that our fire alarm that was going off every single time we took a shower expired in 2003.
Jesus Christ.
And so just so we're clear, it's 2022. So it expired 19 years ago, which means it probably was put up maybe 25 years ago, 30 years ago. Like this thing could not be more expired.
It's the year I met you, GQ. I think we started middle school.
Yeah. September 2003. Yeah. So this thing
has
been expired since you and I met, and we're 30. So that's not great. That was not awesome. And it's one thing after another with this fucking place. I'm not going to get into it right now because the people don't want to listen to that. But
we'll do our property management pod that we come up next. We'll get dive into that.
Right. Yeah. Where first
we got the porn section that we talk about, and then we talk about
First, we're going to do our anti-landlord one, and then we're going to do our pro-landlord one, just in case we ever make money. So that we have both available to do. I don't understand how previous tenants didn't complain about it because there was no way they were not running into the same issues. Were they just okay with the screaming fire alarm every time they took a shower? Were they not taking showers? I don't understand.
Lots of questions there.
Fundamentally don't get it. God, I've got a lot of rant energy in me right now. Modi, I hope you get some sleep tonight. I hope it's a little better for you tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It was,
I'm sorry to hear that.
was nice enough to only go off in the middle of the night when I was trying to sleep. The second we were up and working, everything worked perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, as it does.
As
when
it
there's
goes.
when there's something that you'd want to do, it's gonna bother you, and then once you're like, oh, I'd like to take a break, sweet blissful silence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyways, Bleach. I think I'm like 13 episodes into it. I can't
Okay.
quite binge anime as much as I used to in my non-working sports job during NFL season. It's kind of
Sure.
a grind. But the episode I just finished was pretty sick. It was when they meet the Quincy. I forget people's names, but you know what I'm talking about when they meet the Quincy.
Yeah.
It's Ichigo and I forget the other one. I want to say Aruka, but I know that's Aruka Sensei from Naruto.
Yeah, you're thinking of Aruka Sensei from Naruto. Yeah, I'm gonna blank on his name right now. It's been so long since I've watched Ukiura. No, Ukiura is somebody else. Yeah, whatever. I know who you're talking about. Quincy fires arrows.
The arrow was badass.
Has a very high opinion of himself.
Yeah, he looked like a total dork.
Yeah, he's very completely.
Yeah. But no, I feel like I'm just it almost feels like it's the beginning of Naruto where they're like introducing you to so many people like before it gets intense. Like I'm waiting for basically the bridge arc of Bleach to happen soon. The bridge with Haku and Zabuza and Naruto. I feel like something like that's going to happen soon where there's like they're introducing you to a bunch of characters.
It is going to happen very soon. You have and I'm not going to give any spoilers, but you're probably 5 or so episodes away from Bleach beginning its ramp up to 11, and then it stays at 11 for I don't know, maybe like 80 episodes. Like it stays there and just maintains like excellence for a really long time, and then it kind of goes through peaks and valleys.
Yeah,
but it's pretty commonly agreed upon that the arc that you're coming up on is one of the coolest, like quote unquote, like actual coolest arcs in anime, and by far Bleach's best arc.
Sweet.
Well, so you've got a lot to look forward to. I'm looking forward to hearing about that. You're going to see a lot of, I forget if we had talked about it. I think you'd watched Dragon Ball Z growing up, right?
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot of parallels to Dragon Ball Z. Some of which are going to be just like standard anime tropes,
like
some
7
of which
episode long fight scenes.
Yes, although Bleach is better about it than Dragon Ball Z ever was. I think Bleach learned a lot of lessons from Dragon Ball Z to not do things like that, and animation budgets have changed a lot since the late 80s and early 90s, where they don't need to pad things out quite that much anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense. Anyways, we can get into it, but that's my Bleach update. I don't know, Ferentinos, I know I kind of took my time, but any updates from you?
Oh no, just shout out to Ring Fit Adventure, dope game on the Switch. It was a pretty humid day today, so I knocked out some Ring Fit Adventure, got my workout in.
That's how you've been working out. That's how you've been working out like consistently, right?
Yeah, doing some bike rides, switch it up to the usual. I was speaking of anime, I mean the One Punch Man workout was great for me. I didn't always do a 5 kilometer run, which would take me a long time, but the 100 push-ups, sit-up, squats, banana for breakfast.
I don't think a 5 kilometer run would take you that long of a time. You're in pretty good shape.
3 miles.
5 kilometers is like 2.8 miles, 3 miles?
3.1.
Yeah.
3.1 miles, yeah.
It's like cross country. I used to do it, but that
who's got the time?
Exhausting.
Yeah. Who's got the energy? Who's got the time? Believe me, I
do it
can
in 20
assure
minutes like I used to.
I'm not running 3 miles anymore. I'll occasionally, like I'll be done with all the dog walks or whatever, and I'll be like, yeah, whatever. My legs are still going. And I'll run like 1 mile. And then at the end of it, I'm like, I hate this. I hate everything about this. It's hot out. My shoes don't feel good. My bones hurt. I'm old. I don't like this. But I don't want to be out of shape. So I get where you're coming from. I might have to look into Ring Fit Adventures so that I can have something a little bit more interesting to do with my workouts.
It's pretty sweet.
I saw you post some things on maybe Snapchat at one point with that, like a story about it. So I'll check it out.
It's like video games and exercise, 2 things that I love. So
2 things that you absolutely love. Yeah, that's right up your alley. I'd mentioned earlier, Ferentinos and I, we saw each other this past weekend, pretty briefly. We had an almost impromptu, almost a full power hour right before we had a flight.
Actually, I had to pee quite a lot in the security line. So
I believe you. Knowing what I know about your bladder, I do believe you. Got to see some of our back home friends in DC. Got to spend 5 or 6 hours with people that I don't see very often. So that was pretty excellent. But always a pleasure to see Ferentinos. One day maybe we'll all be in the same place and we can do a real power hour.
In-person pod would be dope.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked about that. We talk about that for list night all the time between Thomas, Andrew, and myself. We're like, man, one day maybe we'll live in the same place again and we can do an in-person pod. But we've all lived in different places for years at this point, so who knows who knows when that's going to be. Ferentino's currently, I think, convincing his dog to chill out a little bit. I think we've all got potential dog interruptions that we made.
My dog was
episode.
howling.
Yeah,
Loki's ready for some NBA takes, and also doesn't like thunderstorms, which it does.
Oh, is it thunderstorming?
So.
Oh, poor boy.
Poor
all right, well then let's jump into it so you can so you can comfort him during the thunderstorm. We're gonna do the first 8 teams alphabetically in the Eastern Conference. We're gonna do that this episode, and then much like last week's episodes, we're gonna cut it into 2 parts just because there's a lot of teams to talk about, and we want to make sure that we give enough attention to all of them. So we're gonna start with the first team in the Eastern Conference, the Atlanta Hawks. FanDuel has them at 45.5 wins for the regular season. In 2021, they went 43-39. And I think we all know, pretty notable addition to the team during this offseason. Modi, I'm going to have you go first. You can take the over, you can take the under, and where are you at on this?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm taking the under. I'm not buying the Hawks. I've never been a great fan of their head coach, Nate McMillan. I feel like he kind of runs like a vanilla offense, like almost. And the fact that he outcoached Doc is one thing, but I almost like equate them like kind of similarly, where like they're like stubborn old head coaches who like can't really adjust. The Murray trade, I get why they did it, but that felt like an overpay to not get above mediocrity. And I have concerns about them offensively. Like neither Trae Young or DeJounte Murray can play off the ball. Trae Young because he doesn't move, DeJounte Murray because he can't shoot. They're both very ball dominant. And like last year, they had the fifth worst defense in the NBA. I'm not confident that Murray is going to fix that even to like average, because the rest of the roster is pretty much unchanged. I still don't understand what's going on with John Collins. I feel like he's been upset. He's been on the trade block for like years at this point. Still there, still kicking. I do like Hunter. I will say if they're gonna reach their ceiling, I would guess it's because DeAndre Hunter takes a leap, like capital L leap. Yeah. But he's been inconsistent, like injury prone, and in a better Eastern Conference than what we had last year. Like a lot of teams improving, a lot of young teams getting better. Do I think they're 3 wins better than last year? Probably not. So I went with the under.
Okay, excellent. Ferentinos?
I'm actually gonna go against Modi here. So we already have one where we disagree on like the Western Conference. But I think the Hawks are definitely going to go over. I think the East, like we're talking about, though, is extremely stacked. The only thing, though, is every team in the East kind of load manages. Like, I don't think, like we were talking about the divisions, because I thought there was 4 divisions instead of 3, because nobody cares about divisions in the NBA. But I think it's mainly just like playoff seeding at the end of it and making sure that you're healthy and ready to go when the playoffs start. There are so many talented teams, which we're going to talk about. But, I mean, the Hawks still have Bogdanovich, Capella, Collins, Hunter. In addition to Murray, Lou Williams gets some good minutes coming off the bench. He can still score. I mean, Luwawu-Cabarrot, he was okay for the Nets. I kind of missed seeing him and seeing some consistency on the Nets there.
Former Sixer TLC.
Yeah. And you get the TLC memes. But, I mean, I think they're a talented team. I think they're going to do well in the regular season. They always do pretty well in the regular season. So I see them going above that win total. I still see, though, a lot of teams in the East getting, high 40s, low 50s in that win, just because like Boston, Philly, Brooklyn, when they're healthy. I mean, there's a lot of teams that are in the East. Miami, who I didn't even mention. So I'm going over for Atlanta, but I do think the rest of the East will be talented as well.
Yeah, I think I'm going to side with Ferentinos a little bit on this one. I understand the reservations about the Hawks, and kind of in a lot of ways sometimes they overachieve and sometimes they underachieve, but regardless, they haven't truly impressed me as a contender just yet. But I think it's worth noting, we talk about Nate McMillan and what he's able to do with a coach. Kind of like a lot of Super Bowl dominant teams or teams that have a Super Bowl dominant like starting point guard or point forward or whoever it may be. A lot of it's going to be down to whoever your primary player is. And I think Trae Young is able to win a significant number of games on his own. And DeJounte Murray is going to make that easier for him. He's going to take a lot of pressure off of him. Last year, while they did have one of the worst defenses in the NBA, they had the number 2 offensive rating in the NBA. So while they didn't have the number 2 offense in terms of like counting stats, they did have one of the most efficient offenses Trae Young had to deal with a lot of players being in and out. I think they were one of the most injured and COVID affected teams in the league. They had 24 guys take the court over the course of the season last year, which is, you're going to see a lot of that in the 2020 and 2021 seasons because of COVID, but that's definitely near the top of the league in terms of how many players they had to work with. I'm not going to put them down as a championship contender. I think at best they're probably peaking as like a 4 seed maybe. But I don't think 45.5 wins is that ridiculously high that I don't think they're going to be able to get over it. I think we're looking more towards 48, 49, maybe a 4 or 5 seed, depending on how the other top teams in the conference shake out.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's like unattainable by any means. I'm just kind of leaning towards the under. The only thing, my only comment, Lou Williams and TLC are no longer on the Hawks. I did look that up.
Yep.
I did look, they're not there anymore.
Don't go to ESPN, folks.
No more Magic City wings for Lou Williams.
But yeah, when I was like ranking the teams in the East, I thought like there are probably like 6 to 8 teams that could be better than the Hawks. It's kind of where it's at. And like, are that many teams going to win 46 plus games? Like, no, there's going to be a team that we think, or there's going to be a team that is projected to be good that will go under. That's just what's going to happen because of how many good teams there are. It's the same thing with the West.
Sure. Yeah, totally understand. And I like the point that you made about DeAndre Hunter, because I've kind of been waiting for him to take that leap, for a little bit now. He came into the NBA a little bit older than some rookies, but he was a guy that I really, really, really was hoping would fall to the Wizards the year that he was drafted. One of those guys who, outside of his injury history that he has now, can kind of do everything. He can defend at a high level. He can distribute the ball. He can score. He can rebound. He makes his teammates better, as we saw kind of like in his college career and in his NBA career thus far. When he's on the court, even if the counting stats are not like jumping off the page, his team plays better because he settles guys down and he knows how to do the right things at the right time. If he's healthy this year, if you've got, Hunter for 65, 70 games, and he's part of that starting lineup night in and night out, and you're grooving going into the playoffs, I think he's going to be a problem. But the injury history is very much a real concern because he has been in and out of the lineup a lot.
Yeah, he's got to take a leap that we haven't seen yet. He definitely can do it. I agree. Like, he's got the talent. It's just something that we haven't seen.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. Let's move on to the next team, the most recent Eastern Conference finals berth, the Boston Celtics. 55.5 wins is what they're projected to be at this year. Last year, they were 51-31. And as you guys may remember, they started off very poorly to the point where a lot of Boston commentators, your Bill Simmons of the world, were very much out on this team, turned it around in a big way. A lot of credit for that goes to Ime Udoka. A lot of credit for that goes to the moves they made, leading up to the deadline, getting rid of Dennis Schroeder. Not that he's a bad player or anything like that, but he was not the right fit for the culture that they were trying to build and the right fit for the kind of offense they were trying to run. Ferentinos, we're going to have you start this one. Where do you see the Celtics ending up?
As much as I hate it, not liking the Celtics, I'm going over for this team. With the updated roster, don't want to be over 2 on my knowing about.
You got to use basketball reference,
so
dude.
Exactly. Shows I'm not really doing my studying. But Danilo Gallinari and then Malcolm Brogdon, those are 2 big offseason acquisitions for the Celtics. And their roster is basically the same beyond that. I mean, Robert Williams gets another offseason to hopefully get healthy. He was always banged up. But I mean, the Celtics are just, I think, going to continue on where they left off from the playoffs in the second half of the season. They were like 17-4 or something after the All-Star break when they closed it out. And then if it wasn't for Steph Curry, the greatest shooter in NBA history, could have been NBA champs. So I do think, though, that their foot's going to be on the gas. They're going to continue to dominate the regular season like they were. They just have that team chemistry, and they only got better in the offseason with Brogdon and Gallinari. So I just think I see the over there going to happen.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
This is another one that you may have missed. Gallinari's out for the season.
Oh, no way. What happened?
He tore his ACL about a week ago.
In like Euro ball.
Yeah, in the FIBA tournament, I'm guessing.
That's right. Yeah.
Which has been, if you're not watching the FIBA tournament, my God, these performances are impressive. I like FIBA basketball in general, but like every team having one superstar, or even not even like a superstar, but some of these teams just having guys that you wouldn't expect scoring.
Did you see Lauri Markkanen?
Lauri Markkanen is unleashed. Oh my gosh. Lauri Markkanen looks like the best player in basketball right now. No, I would highly recommend watching the FIBA tournament. We're coming up on the finals, I think. I think we're in the quarterfinals. Mm-hmm. Yeah, unfortunately, Gallinari. I mean, there's always the chance that he may be able to. I don't know how bad the tear is in his ACL. Like, I'm assuming it's going to be surgery and then probably the entire season off for health reasons. But if they're, coming up on the playoffs and they're like gunning for that 1 seed, entirely possible he comes back early. I don't think they're intending to expect him this year.
Well, he's not that much of a factor compared to Brogdon, so I still take it over.
That's true. And another guy that we are going to have to worry about health-wise, though.
Yeah,
true. Brogdon is a little bit made of glass. But I'll turn it over to Modi. Where are you at on this one, Modi? You agreeing with Ferentino, so taking the under?
I unfortunately agree. Not unfortunately because I don't like agreeing with Ferentino's, because I aggressively hate the Celtics. But
aggressively hate Matt Ferentino's.
But I mean, that defense is going to travel. Like that team, they're just going to gobble up regular season wins, because like even on nights where they don't have the energy, or they're just an off shooting night, like that defense is going to travel, and they're not going to lose to the Pistons or the Magic or like any of these bad teams. So I mean, they're probably going to get the 1 seed is my guess. I think them and the Bucks are probably the two most likely, probably the favorites, I would imagine, as well, to get the 1 seed. I love that trade, the Brogdon trade specifically. Sorry. Like I feel like he's exactly what they needed on offense, just like a professional point guard.
Yeah.
That's what they were missing, was someone to just like run and set up offense. Like that Marcus Smart, as much as he thinks he is not that guy. Like he's just not a pure point guard.
Nor should he be, honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
If you're asking Marcus Smart to be your pure point guard, you're not utilizing his talents correctly. Regardless of the fact that he wants to be a star point guard, it is not the best value use of his time.
He should be guarding their best player.
He should be expending a lot more energy on defense than he is on offense. And he has, sorry to interrupt you, Modi, he has made leaps and bounds of improvement offensively, but he's just not that guy. And there should not be an expectation for him to be, because that's not something that the Celtics are lacking. They're not lacking guys that can put the ball in the basket.
My problem with Marcus Smart is he's not as good as he thinks he is on offense. Like he shoots them out of games. Like that game against the Bucks, he literally lost in the game with the 2 turnovers at the end of the game against the Bucks. He got blocked by Drew, and then he got stripped by Drew Holiday. Like the last 2 offensive plays of the game. Like he just tries to do too much.
Well, that's always been the story of Marcus Smart. You know, when he was launching ill-advised threes 7 times a game when he was in like his sophomore year, and even still now that. And I'm not going to, I don't know if we need to talk about his defensive player of the year selection or not right now, but in my opinion, an undeserved selection. I didn't think that he really warranted it. I think that entire team made him look better defensively than he is. Not that he's bad defensively.
It was a team award.
Phenomenal defensively.
It was a team award.
Yeah. But we also saw what happened to their defense when Tatum's shoulder was jacked up and when Robert Williams was out of games. And you see how much Marcus Smart is a major cog in a really well-oiled machine, but he is not a Giannis. He is not a Gobert. He is not a Drew Holiday, a guy who can quite literally change the defensive face of a team on his own.
Yeah, my favorite take that I've ever had is, if the worst thing that could happen for the Celtics is if Marcus Smart makes his first 2 shots, because then he'll go 0 for 8 after that, and he won't care. Like the worst thing that can happen. It's
a little similar to the problem that you used to run into with John Wall, because John Wall would think, and obviously John Wall, very gifted offensive player. I'm not saying he's not, but John Wall, when he would get into a jump shot groove, he'd hit a few shots and he'd be like, all right, jump shots tonight, instead of getting to the rack. And it's like, you're limiting who you're going to be, because then you stop distributing as much. You stop going to the paint as much. Teams can sag off of you a lot more on a jump shot, because eventually, statistically, you're going to stop hitting them. Like you're not Kevin Durant. You don't have this automatic from the elbow ability.
Yeah. But either way, they're going to like that. They're so good. Like they didn't really lose much from last year. That team is so good. They're going to go over their win total, I guess.
Yeah. I'm on the same page with you guys. We're going to chalk this one up as one that we all agree on. I honestly think 55.5. And I know, they're really not going to offer any regular season totals that are around 60 wins, unless you're looking at like maybe if you go back and look at like the 2017 Warriors or 2018 Warriors or something like that, you'll probably see some super high regular season totals. I think this team's going to win 60 plus games. I think they're incredible. You're going to run into some issues with the injuries, potentially from Brogdon, potentially from Robert Williams if he can't stay healthy throughout the season. You may have issues with Horford getting older. I think he's going into his 15th or 16th year in the league. We did see during his Sixers tenure, kind of what he looks like when he's not fully engaged. And if injuries start to pile up, we could have some issues there. But I think a lot of people are a little bit lower on this team because of the way the finals ended and the way that Jason Tatum looked than they probably should be. This is not how are they going to be in the finals and are they going to win the championship? This is, are they going to dominate the regular season? And unless something crazy happens in that locker room, they are going to dominate the regular season. They are an incredible team.
Unfortunate, but true.
I hate to say it. Every single one of us has said it. We all feel this way. We hate to say it. I do not like when Boston succeeds, but
I mean, I believe in Brad Stevens too, and like hiring Udoka, who's a great hire.
Yeah.
So far. Like, I mean, they just make smart decisions.
And being in that front office, they're a team. And Brad Stevens has shown it, I think, in a way that Danny Ainge didn't necessarily. Brad Stevens is willing to make moves with guys that you may scratch your head at and be like, why is he moving this guy off the team? Like, this is an objectively good player, because Brad Stevens is looking for fit a lot more than he's looking for like star potential. He has stars. He has a superstar. Now you got to put the pieces around these guys. Don't just look for guys that can score. Look for complementary pieces. And I think Brad Stevens understands that in a better way than Danny Ainge does, because Danny Ainge was from an era of, I need 3 superstars or 3-star level players, and it's going to be ISO ball all the time, and they're going to win us a championship. So it's a difference of background and environment.
I feel like Danny Ainge also suffers from like he has to win the trade. It's like one of those GMs. Like that's why they never pull the trigger on a superstar trade. Because if you're trading for a superstar, you almost never win that trade. And I feel like that's what he was guilty of, is just feeling like it's almost like a Daryl Morey type thing. Like you have to feel like you're winning the trade.
Yeah, what is it they call him? I saw people on Twitter referring to him. They call him maybe Ainge, because he's always he's in on every trade, but like how often do they actually end up making those trades? How often do they move draft picks? How often do they actually take advantage of that draft capital that they have to become a better team? So we'll see how he does in Utah. I know I think a lot of people, even prior to him moving there, knew that was where he wanted to be at the end of his Celtics tenure. We'll see.
Got a lot of picks now.
He's got a lot to work with, and all credit to the man. He does good work when he has picks. So we'll see what he does for the Jazz. I think we're all in agreement on the Celtics, though. They're going to be great. Let's move on to the team that I really don't want to talk about.
Yeah, neither do I.
Really? Oh, excellent. I don't want to take that much time on them. We're going on to the Brooklyn Nets.
Well, have TJ Warren and Royce O'Neal torn their ACLs or gotten traded since I last looked at
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge.
I know they got Keith though, so I guess that is also something new that just happened with the Nets. But
yeah, we before you get into it, we've FanDuel's got them at 51.5 wins last year for a lot of reasons that we don't really need to go into. They were 44-38, obviously not super indicative of their talent level. They're clearly better than a 44 win team, but you're missing a lot of players. Again, not getting into it this year. I think we can expect them to be better than that. Ferentinos, you want to start, so let's start with you.
I think I'm taking the under, just because, I mean, this is a team that I think is going to have some chemistry issues to start no matter what. And then just with the injuries, I mean, KD's an old superstar. Kyrie Irving misses miscellaneous games, and we don't know what we're getting from Ben Simmons yet. So I think they're still going to be a good team. I think they're going to probably win around 48 games is where I have the Nets. If everything clicks, if they start to build that chemistry come the playoffs, if they get a new coach before the All-Star break, anything can happen with this team. But I'm not bullish on them like running through the regular season. Pre-KD injury last year, they were still number 1 seed in the East, but that's also before Boston found their groove. And I do think that the Cavs are going to be better. The Hawks are going to be better. And the Celtics are obviously still going to dominate from the beginning of the year. So I don't see the Nets hitting that win total 51, but I still think they're going to be a threat and could be, one of the best teams in the East if everything goes right for them next year.
Sure. But
Yeah, I think I also have them going under. I was surprised you did. I was just expecting us to disagree. I feel like they could easily go, like you said, if you just look at the talent and if you blacked out all of the last NBA season and you just were like looking at their team, you'd be like, oh, this team's going over 51.5. But I just need to see it. It's just too much weirdness is going on. If you ask Kyrie, like they're all kind of the head coach. So really, what does it matter if Steve Nash is? They're all kind of the head coach.
He runs his own practices with the team, so
yeah, true. I did like a lot of the moves they made, like around the edges. Like they're gonna miss Bruce Brown, but like Royce O'Neal's fine. He's like a good 3-and-D player. The D, it was a little bit questionable considering what we saw in Utah, but I think that situation was so toxic. I wouldn't be surprised if he's better. Like TJ Warren, I think was a good like shot for them to take. Like we haven't seen him really play basketball since the bubble when he was just putting up 50 burgers. Like
Bubble Jordan,
yeah, when he was insane. But like, KD and Kyrie are on the bench. You need someone to just get buckets. Like, why not take a flyer on TJ Warren? So like, I like the moves they made, but I just need to see it. Too much weirdness going on with this team. Too much unknown. Like KD could just get traded at the All-Star break. They could fire their head coach. Like so many things could happen. Like Ben Simmons could just never play basketball again. Is also in the realm of possibility. Same with Kyrie. So I'll safeguard all that weirdness and I'll take the under.
Yeah. I totally understand why you guys are both making the choices you are. And normally I would make the same pick. I'm going to take the over though, because I'm going to operate under the assumption that for some chaotic reason, everything is going to go right for the Nets this year. And Matt may finally experience joy related to the team that they put together. I think you're going to get I think Ben Simmons is going to play. So that's hot take number one. I think Kyrie Irving is going to play over 60 games. I think Kevin Durant is going to play over 60 games. I don't think that they're going to.
Would you bet those overs?
I
would
parlayed
that together.
I would, because I'm sure the odds for them would be pretty favorable to me. And I mean, whatever, what's losing some money? I do it all the time. I think they're going to flame out in the playoffs. So I talk about Ferentinos being happy. I don't know if they're at the point anymore where their superstars are young enough or healthy enough to be the guys that we still think they can be. But I do think they're going to be a better regular season team than a lot of people are expecting. I don't think they're going to be high over 51.5. I think, maybe we're looking at like 53 wins. But if you've got a healthy Kevin Durant for the vast majority of the year, and that is a question, we might not, you're going to win a lot more games than you lose. And if you've got Ben Simmons, regular season king, then I can see them racking up a lot of dubs, particularly against the bottom dwellers of the East, particularly against teams like the Wizards.
The Hornets coming up next.
The Magic, the Hornets. They're going to have a lot of size on the Hornets. There's a lot of advantages that they're going to have in terms of shot making and just superstar play. And honestly, at this point, if you do have Ben Simmons and you do have Royce O'Neal, you've got the beginnings of an actually defensively okay squad. If Paxton's if that team is all able to take the court together and Claxton's able to hide some of the weaknesses of their other players, like there's potential there for them to gel in a way that they didn't in previous years.
And hopefully Ben Simmons gives them that freedom, if Ben Simmons plays,
yes,
to have some minute restrictions, or not restrictions, but just flexibility with KD and Kyrie. I mean, they burned out. Part of the reason I think they burned out is like the Celtics burned out in the finals. They just burned out in the first round because they're aging superstars that were playing back-to-backs just to make it in the playoffs. And still, like KD coming back from an injury and then immediately playing 42 minutes a night, that's not going to help. But yeah, Nets are the Nets. Maybe they'll season one go better than my Cowboys, which is why I'm now officially a Ravens fan.
Wow, abandoned so quickly. We did talk about this in the group chat this morning. We'll talk about this on our NFL podcast that doesn't exist yet.
Save that for the Hail Mary podcast.
Yeah, because that's what they're going to need to win any games. All right, I'm kind of glad we're not talking about the Brooklyn Nets for a long time, because we've dedicated half of our airtime thus far over the course of previous podcasts to them. Let's move on to the team that you just mentioned, the Charlotte Hornets. FanDuel has them at 37.5. In 2021, they were 43-39. There's been some moves. There's been some injuries. There's been
some court cases.
There's been some court cases. Yeah.
I mean, he's one of their best players. It's really is.
Yeah, it's going to be it's not only going to affect the team in terms of what they're putting on the court, but I'm sure it's going to cause some issues in the locker room as well. Modi, we'll have you start this one. Where do you see the Hornets at? Do you think they're going to be closer to 500, or are they going to be a bad team this year?
Yeah, I have them going under. I was surprised they won 43 games. I feel like considering what was it? They're the 9 seed, right? Or the 10 seed? I can't remember.
They were like back-to-back years. They got blown out in the play.
The Hawks were the 9 seed, so I think the Hornets were the 10 seed, and then they've showed that they're the worst play-in team of all time.
Of all time, just washed.
All 2 years of the play, and they're the worst one.
Yeah. I have them going under. I feel like of all the teams that aren't like objectively horrible, I feel like I have the least amount of opinions on the Charlotte Hornets. I feel like they're the most blah team in the entire NBA. Like they're not horrible, they're not good. They're like the definition of fine. And like winning 6 fewer games than last year, I think is like a little bit of a risky bet, but I'm mostly just putting that to chemistry issues like they talked about, like you guys talked about. And in a better East, I just think that they could be the same level of as good as they were last year, but still win like 7 fewer games than last year. So not to be boring, I don't have a ton to say about this team. I just feel like they're just like so boring and they're just like going to be stuck in mediocrity. So I have them going under.
It's a bit of a bummer how boring they are.
It really is.
Because I thought like when they started forming this team and when they drafted LaMelo and all that, I was like, this is going to be like guaranteed league pass entertainment every night of the week. And within 2 or 3 years, this is going to be a team that has 25 nationally televised games. And they're just, and I mean, I get LaMelo's still young. You know, there's still some pieces that need to be moved. Once they get off the Gordon Hayward contract, you know, there's going to be some questions that get asked about how they're going to utilize that money. But they're just like not exciting. And that really bums me out because I thought that they were like, you know, finally on the come up.
For a team owned by Michael Jordan, it's remarkable how like little people care about them.
Yeah. Which was almost the Wizards.
Yeah.
He almost ended up being the majority owner of the Wizards. And we all know that's a team that nobody gives a fuck about.
Does anyone know if Gordon Hayward's going to play?
As far as I'm aware,
consistently injured.
Yeah, so that was gonna be one of my points when we got to how I feel about it. Gordon Hayward's 11 years in the league, 12 years in the league, and he's been injured maybe half of those at this point. So for a guy that they were briefly calling the white LeBron in terms of like what he was able to do on like a Diet Coke. Yeah, and he could defend, 4 positions, and he could distribute the ball, and he could score, and he could back guys down. And he seemed like towards the end of that Jazz run, he was really coming into himself. And then he went to the Celtics, and we all thought they were going to take over the world. And then 6 minutes into the game, his career is on an entirely different trajectory.
Yeah,
I think I'm finally officially out on Gordon Hayward because I think there's just been too much damage done to the guy, and I hate to say that. Because when he's playing and he's playing well, he's awesome. But the body is deteriorating.
Way, he takes really smart shots.
He does. He's an intelligent player. He's always been an intelligent player. I mean, in college, he was a bit of he was kind of like cardiac Kemba, where he was not afraid to take the big shot and he would just do ridiculous things in games and win them games they weren't supposed to. But in his time in the NBA, particularly with a very like steady Jazz team that people didn't have expectations for, Hayward was the kind of guy you looked at every single year and you were like, okay, he added this to his game this year, this to his game this year, that to his game this year. He's going to be a superstar in this league. And right as it all came to a head and he was right there ready to take the leap, it all got derailed. And that's a part of a bummer about this Hornets team is that like, it seems like there's a lot of guys on this team previously kind of with Kemba Walker. Like they get guys who are, potential stars, except for 1 or 2 issues, who then end up having all these health issues and just are not able to get over the hump.
Yeah, I'm taking the under on the Hornets. I think they have potential to be one of the worst teams in the NBA, and I think LaMelo Ball is definitely going to want out.
LeVar Ball is definitely going to want out.
LeVar Ball, I think, has always wanted out.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting for rookies though, because like with Zion, like I think just the ability to sign a supermax is huge, and I think like it is passing up money, but at the same time, I feel like the Ball and like LaMelo Ball is the type of player that would be fine with testing free agency right away, and I could see him wanting out. they just lost the max contract player that they had and didn't really get better anywhere else. So yeah, not in on the Hornets this year.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm going to take the under as well. I always hedge these things by saying I'm not going to go like super far under because I'm a coward. But I don't think they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. I think you're looking at a team probably in the low to mid 30s, but like a team that's noticeably below average, but not one that you're excited to watch. Like I'm excited to watch Thunder games despite knowing that they're going to be bad. I'm not that excited to watch Hornets games.
I'd put the Pistons on that list. We'll talk about them.
Pistons, absolutely. Yeah.
A bad team you're excited about.
There's some teams that you can look at and you say they're building something here that's going to make sense. They're, 1 or 2 years away from being 2 years away, but they are going to, assuming things work out with this roster, with these like primary 4 guys, things are going to work out. I don't feel that way about the Hornets. I feel like the Hornets it's a destination or a drafting spot for guys that are going to be gone in 7 years. And like you mentioned about LaMelo, I don't think he's going to be on this team. I see him going. I know LeVar wants him in, big markets, but I don't even necessarily see him in like a big market. I could see LaMelo going to a team like the Spurs or something, a team that's going to maximize his basketball capability. Because I think at the end of the day, like the money's going to come for him. He was a superstar at 20 years old. He wants to win games.
He's going to the Knicks.
Pop with LaMelo would be fun, and might actually give the Knicks something to talk about.
Yeah, that's why I feel like he's a perfect match for New York City with LeVar, and then for the Knicks, who just like have been striking out on superstars for.
Yeah, you see, they're the most valuable.
He is more built for that than Lonzo was in terms of
personality.
The personality, Lonzo is much more reserved, and people try to put him in they try to put a square peg in a round hole. LaMelo is the round peg, like he will fit in that hole.
Yeah.
Pause.
Well said.
You guys want to talk about porn stars again? Or?
Speaking of Lonzo, though.
Yeah.
Speaking of Lonzo, next team up, Chicago Bulls. A particularly interesting one for me. FanDuel has them at 44.5. Last year they were 46 and 36. They had that blistering start to the season, and then as the injuries kind of popped up, they fell apart in a particularly egregious way. Ferentinos, will have you start. Where do you see the Bulls for this next season?
I think if Lonzo is able to come back earlier in the season, because I think it really was when Lonzo got hurt that things started to fall apart for the Bulls. I think he is such a good defender, a really good ball handler. He's gotten an improved jump shot as well. He doesn't need to shoot all the time, but when he does, he's more accurate, and he is kind of that glue for that Bulls team. I'm taking the over. I'm going to be optimistic. I just kind of love DeMar DeRozan. He's got that game at a superstar that we really don't see anymore, where he just focuses all on mid-range, but he's so good at it. And I just always kind of have fun watching this team, so I'm taking the over there. And that's kind of hedging on Lonzo being able to come back earlier in the season, being more of a factor there. But if he's still inconsistent because they're an older team, they have more injuries. Vucevic is never the best, I feel like, on defense, and he's kind of hot and cold on offense. Even there's nights where he does disappear, even though he has all-star potential and is an all-star. But I'm gonna be positive, be a little optimistic, give Bulls fans and city of Chicago something to cheer for.
Modai?
Yeah, sorry, dogs are barking.
No, it's all good.
I completely disagree. I think this team has blow up potential.
Wow.
There's a lot of weirdness going on with Lonzo's knee. Like a torn meniscus, sometimes you can come back that same year. Like Embiid played in the playoffs with a torn meniscus, and then was fine to start the regular season. Obviously, injuries are always different, which is why this one is concerning. That it seems to be way more serious than what it initially was, like the diagnosis. And I do agree with you. I love DeMar. A lot of NBA defenders say that he's the hardest to guard because of his footwork. He's just so smooth. But I think that what he did last year is more of an outlier than what you should expect moving forward. And granted, like you said, injuries took a toll, but the last 2 months of the year, they were literally the 4th worst team in net rating in the entire NBA. And Caruso was back for part of that. And their fans are pissed because they didn't do anything in the offseason. Fans are pissed. All they did, they signed the Drummond and the corpse of Goran Dragic. They didn't do anything really remotely helpful in the offseason. So
Goran
I think
does like going to winners, though.
Who does?
That's what Dragic said last
That's what
year.
Dragic
He wanted
said,
to go to the
you know.
Nets because he wanted to go to a winner.
A winner?
Yeah. Instead of going
The
to the Raptors,
The
it was
Raptors,
it was
who
the
ended up being the
Raptors,
better
yeah.
team. Yeah.
yeah. That's tough. So yeah, I'm taking the under. I think this team has blow up potential. Like,
I don't feel too bad for Dragic. He got to spend like 5 or 6 years in Miami. That dude's life is probably dope as shit.
he made a ton of money in Miami too.
He made a lot of money in Miami and in Phoenix. He's had a great career, but yeah, he's washed. I'm a little surprised. Neither one of you guys seem to have anything to say about Zach Levine, who, for my money, might be the best shooting guard in the East.
Yeah, I mean, he's good. He's a flamethrower. He doesn't play defense. He also has weird.
But he can play defense.
But he doesn't.
He has the physical tools to play defense.
He's
during the beginning of that run, during that first like 30 to 40 games of that season,
winners.
He was playing defense, and then things started falling apart. Caruso got hurt. Lonzo got hurt. Both those guys, two of the best guard and wing defenders at their positions in the league. This is a dicey one for me. 44.5. I'm going to take the over. I think they're going to be probably in the high 40s. I still have faith in some of the guys on this Bulls squad. I don't think DeRozan is going to have the year that he had last year. I mean, DeRozan's another one of those guys you can point to, and he'd be like, he got better at this every single year, but he's getting older. Like, he's on the wrong side of 30. He's, I think, a few years on the wrong side of 30 at this point.
Still can't shoot from three. Although, oddly enough, I mean, like, he does hit a lot of game winners.
He does know how to shoot threes now. Like, it used to be that he like simply couldn't do it. Now, like, when he shoots threes, like, the form is there, the ability's there. Like, he understands now where the line is on the court, which always seemed to be a confusion for him.
It's a mental thing.
He does. Yeah, it's clearly a mental thing.
Yeah.
He's 33.
He's 33. Yeah. I mean, DeRozan, a guy who never really got enough shine for how athletic he was early in his career. You know, a guy who I think had a dunk contest stolen from him. One of the most impressive in-game dunkers early in his career, and a guy that could just do it all under the basket. But I think we're coming down to the end of the DeRozan experience about a guy, you know, I think what he averaged last year, 27 points per game or something like that.
That's not bad. 27.9, 5 and 5, basically.
Right. I don't think he's got that in his tank for much longer. Like that was last year was hugely impressive. And he did that. Yeah, Levine playing next to him, I think, is part of the reason.
He's not the number one. That's what I think. It could continue for that same reason. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, he was
not
hugely
he's
impressive.
Doing high flying dunks. I mean, he just gets space.
Yeah, it's mid range buckets and it's free throws. I mean, he kind of does a lot of the same stuff that James Harden does, where he gets a guy on his elbow or he gets a guy on his hip, and he'll try and go through contact. And he's got a relatively soft touch, so he gets a lot of and ones. But he's getting older. And, you know, once you lose that step and once you stop, you can't get, I mean, like, look at what has happened to Harden. Harden, always a better player than DeMar DeRozan. But now that his hamstring issues have started popping up, he's not getting the free throws to the same degree.
I think he's going to, I think James Harden's going to come back. I think
I do think
probably going to be the best team.
We had talked about this on the Western Conference preview. I do think Harden is going to be better this year than he was last year. I think an off season of rest is going to help him, but I don't think we're ever going to see MVP Harden again. And I don't know if,
Harden, yeah.
I think we've probably also seen the best of DeMar DeRozan. I am still going to take the over. You know, I'm hoping for health for Lonzo and Caruso and a lot of guys on that team. But they're, you know, lower end playoff team. You know, they're a 47 win team, 48 win team. Entirely possible they'll get hot again like they did last year. And maybe they'll actually be able to keep that momentum going. But they also might not be a team that wants to get hot because they were riding their stars really hard. And I think that's part of why they had injuries. They had 6 or 7 guys playing every single game, playing way too many minutes. So we'll see with the Bulls. You know, they're definitely a question mark. Like Modi said, I could see them potentially blowing it up. You know, if they're at the wrong place when the trade deadline comes there, if they're, you know, 10 games under 500, we're going to see a lot of these guys on different teams.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's move on to one of, in my opinion, the genuine contenders of the Eastern Conference, the Cleveland Cavaliers. FanDuel has them at 46.5 in 2021. They were 44-38. As we all know, they've made some pretty major moves this offseason.
46 and a half after Mitchell trade.
That is
it's too low.
Yeah, that's so we're all going to say right now, we're all going to take the over. Let's get out ahead of this one. We're all taking the over. That's
smashing the over on this one for Cleveland.
This is an absolute smash. I would have taken the over pre-Donovan Mitchell trade.
Yeah. I would have too. I think you have a lot to look forward to this team. And if 2.5 wins, despite what they did last year with Evan Mobley, who was young in the league, being like essentially their best player, they're gonna be better.
And they would have gone over last year if both Jared Allen and Evan Mobley don't get hurt. At one point, I forget the date, but I looked this up. They were 36 and 25, 7th best net rating in the entire NBA. And then
Ricky Rubio getting hurt, I think also
hurt.
Yeah, because he was great.
They had a bunch of badly timed injuries where it was like multiple guys going out around the same time, so you couldn't even have somebody like compensate for those. It was like the team kind of fell apart overnight. I don't think that's going to happen this year. I mean, you can never account for that, but I think this is like a 3 seed. I think we talked about it when we talked about the Mitchell trade. Like this is a great team. They're really well built, and there's a lot of talent, and there's a lot of young talent who you're going to see between game 1 and game 82. They're going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron's going to come calling in a couple of years.
Yeah. Look, if they can figure out a way to get Bronny to that team, LeBron James is going to be there too.
Yeah.
Do you think that teams will take Bronny just ahead of what is, depending on how he develops? I know he can be like G League. He made a visit to Ohio State, but he said he didn't commit. Depending on how Bronny develops, do you see a team just taking him way ahead of where he should be with the
100%
hope that LeBron?
No matter what, a team is going to take him way ahead of where he should be if he goes in the first round.
Yeah,
like 100. He's good.
There's some boring teams that are like, if this gives us 1% chance of getting LeBron, we will do it just because we've been boring forever.
I mean, look at I bring them up a lot on this pod because I'm a fan, and despite hating myself for it, look at the Wizards. Their draft strategy the past few years has been get international prospects so that we can build our international fan base. They will absolutely, if they have a good pick, take Bronny James so that they can make money, because that is the primary thing for Ted Leonsis, is making money. It's not winning games.
That would be dope if LeBron out Jordan's Wizard years and actually went to one of the
well,
playoffs and stuff.
RIP to Kobe. But my whole take for the first couple of years of his retirement, so around like 2018 or whatever, I was like, oh my God, this is the year that Kobe Bryant's going to come back to the NBA and play for the Wizards. Because if Jordan did it, Kobe's got to do it.
True.
Unfortunately, I don't see that happening though.
Oh man. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
I don't think, not a ton that we need to say about the Cavs, because we're going to talk about them a lot this season because they're going to be very good. And they're
Garland and Mitchell now, like one of the best, backcourts in the East, maybe NBA. I mean,
I'm gonna miss Sexland, but Garland and Mitchell is going to be really, really good. Kevin Love very much adapting to his role as kind of like a 6th man. Evan Mobley, incredible, only going to get better. It's a really good team, and
Evan
Mobley
is
the first time that I can remember them being a good team without LeBron.
Yeah, I mean, Evan Mobley of all the players in the team, probably will be the best. He's one that has superstar potential over it. Garland's really good too, but for my money, I would take a Mobley has more likely to be the top 5 superstar level talent.
There are times that I see Evan Mobley run cross court, and I look at him and I'm like, you're Giannis. You are doing shit with the ball, and you are avoiding guys down court, and you're finishing through contact, and you're making it look so absurdly easy. And I don't even know if you're old enough to drink yet.
Defensively, as my dog barks, I was thinking OG Kevin Garnett. And
he's also got a better shot than young Giannis did. He can shoot the ball. Every single one of his skills is already at a point where you're like, okay, he's already this good at this age, assuming health and assuming coaching. There's no reason not to believe that he's going to be a long-term superstar, not a 1 or 2 year all NBA flash in the pan, but a guy who's at the top of the league for a decade.
Yeah, I totally agree.
All right, excellent. Well, we're all on the same page with the Cavs. We're smashing the over. I think probably all of us are likely looking somewhere over 50 wins. Are you guys in agreement on that one?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, that's a good one to bet. If you're watching this one right now, FanDuel's got him at 46.5. Go bet on the Cavs to hit the over for that.
Tease a few more wins.
You can get money. 50 plus wins at plus 160 on FanDuel. Alternate total.
There you go. pretty good odds for a team that we're all pretty high on, and I think the NBA media in general is pretty high on, which I'm now considering us part of.
I was surprised it was this low. I almost I had to do a double take. I was like, that is, I'm looking at the right team, right? Yeah, 46.5.
I mean, a lot of it's where they think the money's coming in. Maybe there's a lot of like self-hating Cleveland fans that are like, under. It's never going to happen without LeBron. No LeBron, no Nate Thurmond. Who are we going to root for? Let's move on to the Detroit Pistons, who we mentioned a little bit earlier. FanDuel has them at 27.5. And in 2021, they were 23-59. But let's start with you. Where are you at on the Pistons?
Listen, the Pistons are going to be a very fun league pass team. I love, like, if I could buy a next 3 years future, I would buy one on the Pistons. Sorry. Excuse me. But I'm taking the under. I think like they're too young still at this point to win. Like, I love their rookie class. And I love Cade, like second year Cade. Like, I loved Ivy. They lucked out with the Kings taking Keegan Murray before him. I loved Jalen Durant, who they drafted, and like the lot still in the lottery. But I just don't think they're ready yet. I still think they're too young, and I still have them. And I don't think they're ready, like want to win yet. Is kind of also where I'm at. Like kind of like the Rockets, who a team that has young talent is presumably going to be good if the talent keeps rising, but just not ready this year. So I have them going under, but I do really like the talent on the Pistons.
Sure. Garantinos?
I definitely agree just because, any team where Kelly Olynyk makes the most money on your payroll is probably not going to be a great team.
Kelly Olynyk.
They do. I mean, just,
Jordan.
Like you said, watching Cunningham and Ivy is going to be a lot of fun. They have a lot of players where, if they take, I wouldn't be shocked if like 2 or 3 players take a big leap and then we see them as, kind of like where the Cavs are this year. It would just take like one big superstar kind of coming to this team and complementing the young talent that they have to be able to be one of the contenders. But they're not gonna, I don't think they're gonna be that great this year. I definitely wouldn't hammer the under, but like 25, 26 games.
I don't think you can hammer the under for 27.5 wins. I mean, like there's only so low that these teams can get, unless they're like the absolute worst version of the Nets or something like that. Like they're still going to win 20 games. I'm going to take the under as well, to the probably annoyance of my significant other, who probably doesn't know anyone on the Pistons outside of two-way player Buddy Boeheim, but because she's such a huge Syracuse fan, she's probably going to hope that I'm more into the Pistons than I am. I think if you look at the roster, you're looking at a lot of guys who are, you got 3, Buddy Boeheim included, 3 players, major players, 2 of them, Jaden Ivey and Jalen Durant, who are on rookie contracts. You've got a couple guys that are on their first year or their second year in the league. You got a few guys that are on their third year of the league, a few guys that are on their fourth year of the league. And then you've got some guys that have been bouncing around for a while. You've got Kelly Olynyk, Nerlens Noel, Kojo's on the team. Kemba Walker is not going to be there.
God, they had not Kelly Olynyk, the guy you said after him. Nerlens Noel.
Nerlens Noel. Yeah. I mean, like you've got guys that have NBA experience. Rodney Magruder, Alec Burks, like guys that no team is like knocking down the door to get, because what's the value? It's they're backups to the players that you actually want taking the court. The major reason why I see them being under 27.5, outside of the fact that they're just young as shit, is that they're probably going to try out a bunch of lineups throughout the year. And they're going to probably do some weird things where they're going to have different guys bringing the ball up, and they're going to try and see how Cade plays off ball and things along those lines. And there's always the possibility that they're going to try and make some trades at the trade deadline to get guys to be on the team for the next 2 years. So if one of their rookies isn't working out, I could see them trying to move them for more picks or something along those lines. Try and move off them quickly if they think the locker room has too many young guys in it. But they're not going to be a good team. They're going to be a fun league pass team. They're going to have a couple nights throughout the year where they're going to beat like a Warriors, or they're going to beat a Celtics, or they're going to beat a Heat. Like they're going to see them win games against really good competition, because that really good competition is going to come out slow and not realize they're playing against genuine NBA talent. But they're not going to be consistent, and they're just not going to win a lot. But circle back in 2024, and we're looking at a team that's going to be over 500.
Yeah, playing through 2 young guards, let them take their lumps, get their losses out of the way when the games don't matter, and they'll be better for it in the future.
Yeah. All right, excellent. So we're all in agreement on this one. Let's move on to the last team of the first 8 teams of the Eastern Conference, the Indiana Pacers. FanDuel has them at 23.5. Last year they were 25-57. Obviously, they had some major trades last year. They've also had some major trades during this offseason to move players off the team. Modi, let's have you go first for this last one. Where do you see the Pacers ending up?
Yeah, they're going under. This team is going to be absolute trash this year. They traded Brogdon. Like they have some fun young players. Like I love Halliburton. I wanted in the Sixers Ben Simmons debacle. I wanted Halliburton over Harden because I thought that whatever, it doesn't matter. I like Halliburton a lot. I like Benedict Mathurin, the guy they drafted in the first round. Like I think he's good. Similar to the Pistons, they're young talent, not quite as good as the Pistons, but they're going to trade Buddy Hield. They're going to trade Miles Turner. They're like, and they already lost Brogdon. So this team's going to be terrible. They're going to be absolute trash.
Yeah.
So I'm taking the under.
Yeah. I'm on the same page as you. I think they're going to be really, really bad. Basically what they are right now is a destination for other players that are going to get traded elsewhere. They're another example, looking at last year's record, they're another example of a team that had an absurd number of teams or players play for them. They had 28 different guys take the court over the course of last season.
That's insane.
Obviously, COVID acknowledged, injuries acknowledged, that's part of it. But I think you're probably going to see over 20 players this year take the court for them as well, because they're probably going to move half this team at the deadline.
They got sharpshooter Nick Stauskas, paid him $700,000.
Yeah, great.
I mean,
look, am I going to turn down that contract? Hell no, I wouldn't. But this team's going to be bad. You're looking at 18, 19, 20 wins. Ferentinos, you on the same page as us? You can take the over.
Yeah, no, I'm taking the under. Just shout out to Chris Duarte. Last year, I thought he was going to be one of the best sharpshooting rookies. I think he had 40 points in the first game.
His first game, yeah, he was on fire.
Came out of nowhere, fucking exploded. And then, it's not like he was bad. I think he averaged over 10 a game, over 11 a game, something like that. He was good. But
I think this might be definitely the bottom and the floor for the Pacers, because they are and have consistently been a small market team that's very good. So I don't see them being bad for long, but this is definitely going to be one of their bad years.
Yeah, I think the Pacers are up there as one of the most consistently winning teams in the NBA.
With the Spurs, they're not obviously as successful in the season.
Just with nothing to show for it.
But they've consistently made the playoffs.
They'll usually have 2 or 3 years slightly
yeah.
under 500. And then they'll be back with a bunch of 50-win teams. That's Pacers basketball. They'll do that for 10 straight years, and they'll probably do that again. But this is one of those years where not only are they going to be below 500, but just the way the NBA is currently, they're going to be deeply under 500. They're going to be at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah. In 2 years, they'll make another Victor Oladipo equivalent trade where they take advantage of some disgruntled asset, turn them around. And then with their young core they have now, will probably be the 4 seed for 10 straight years. That's
or they'll have a guy come out of nowhere and turn into a superstar like Paul George.
Yeah,
because their internal development has never really been an issue for them. They've turned a lot of guys who you look at as low level 2-way players or 3-and-D wings, and they've turned them into genuine stars. I'm sure they'll do it again.
Danny Granger before Paul George.
Danny Granger before Paul George, and then obviously you would have hoped that his injury would have kind of ended differently, but the Pacers are really good at finding those kind of guys. It's just, can they take advantage before they leave for a different team?
Before they're done with the Pacers.
Yeah, before they want out of Indiana. And it's the same thing with them that you're going to encounter with the OKC, with OKCs of the world and the Utah teams of the world. And, you got to win quickly.
The non-coastal teams, essentially.
Yeah. Non-coastal. And, I think some people might be willing to stay in Denver.
Yeah. Only an idiot would want to go to Denver.
Yeah. I wonder what that'd be like.
Yeah.
Pray that a generational talent that grew up in your city really loves your city enough to play for your team and deal with all the shit from the owner.
And not only should you pray for that, but you should pray that they want to come back after their 4 years at college.
Yeah.
I wonder who we're talking about. All right, guys. That's the first 8 teams. We'll talk about the other 8 teams in the conference sometime in the next week or so, either at the end of this week or beginning of next week, so that we can kind of space this one out a little bit. Appreciate you both taking the time. As I mentioned before, if you were watching on YouTube, click the like button if you have not already. Now that you've heard our over-unders for the first 8 teams in the conference, feel free to agree or disagree with us in the comments below. And if you were not already subscribed to the Give and Go Show on YouTube, make sure you click that subscribe button. I know we've been very, very slightly interrupted by dogs during this episode. So, clearly we need to share our dogs on our social media. Maybe that's going to be the way for us to get some new viewers and some new followers. And as I did not mention, I forgot to mention at the top of the show, make sure you're following us on Twitter and Instagram at Give Go Show and on TikTok at The Give and Go Show. Stay in the loop whenever we drop new content. And we will see you next episode for the rest of the Eastern Conference and probably a little bit more anime talk, largely about Bleach. See you next time, guys.
See ya.
Yeah. Peace.